this is the last week of Women's Herstory. I like to say Herstory because women do not get enough credit, not only these days, but I heard it, I thought it was catchy, so I say Herstory. We always talk about history. No. Each of us needs to tell our own story. And since this is a gender-based history month, Herstory, just like there are sheroes, not heroes, sheroes. Yeah, women save some people too. You darn skippy. Oh, yeah. You know, but we don't hear about these things, or we seldom hear about it. You know, women are still a minority in 2019. I'm not just talking about women of color. White women, minority too. You know, it's a shame. What are you talking about? What's minor about women? Was your mom minor? I don't think so. Anyway, I don't want to get carried away. The theme this year is Women Warriors. Oh, by the way, for the few who don't know me, my name is Charles Trott. I am the creator of DIA. DIA stands for Diasporic Images of Africa. DIA. All right, what does that do? It shows the connection between African cultures and civilizations with the cultures and continents around the world and countries. All right, tonight we're going to do, like I said, a ladies panel. We're going to talk about a few questions that I have for them so you can get their perspective on things that we all know about. But first I'd like to go to the slideshow to set the tone for tonight. For those who had a chance, or this will be up until the end of the month, or later on tonight, you can look at the display case. This is my interpretation of some of the women I wanted to focus on. They range from antiquity back in the 1st century. They come up to the 1800s, 1900s. I forget. What century was she? I forget now. But at any rate, they range. Native American women from the 19th century, you can clearly see that. Some of these faces here you may be familiar with, others you may not. Most of them will be in a slide show. And by the way, if this is your first time at a presentation at the Asbury Park Library that I've done, we always do a slide presentation. We do a discussion, not always with a panel discussion. Usually it's me, and then of course the audience. All right, ladies, would you please just introduce yourselves to the guests here. Start right now, just your name. We'll get to who you are.
Okay, greetings, I'm Lorraine Stone.
My name is Melissa Keeling.
I'm Kay Banks.
And I'm Rumu Dasgupta. That is East Indian.
All of these ladies have one thing in common for sure. They are all either former and continuing to be educators. Now, two of them are performing artists. I'm going to ask them to give us a little sample of their talents. Although you may want to just hear them and forget about me, but we must go through this, all right? What I think I'll do is let's just quickly, if we can, which one of you performing artists would like to go first? We have a musician and we have a poet and actress with us. Lorraine Stone is a poet and actress. Anything else? Playwright and also an educator because of that. Melissa is a musician, music teacher, and well, no, I'll let her tell you that later. So anyway, whichever, 2 minutes, just.
First, okay. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I am hoping that most of you will know what it is. Not going to do all of it, but if you know, you'll know. And if you don't know, you better ask. Well, church, where there's so much a racket, there must be something cute. I think that twixt the niggas in the South and the white women's in the North, the white man gonna be in the fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talk about anyway? That man, he said women ought to be lifted in the carriages and helped over mud puddles and give the best place everywhere. Well, nobody ever helped me into no wagon or give me no best place or lift me over no ditches. And aren't I a woman? That is right. Not you. No, not you. Well, nobody.
They don't understand that connection when you say not me, so that's all right.
It's all love. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Nobody raised their hand but you, so I guess it is.
Ain't I a Woman by one of those ladies, a Sojourner Truth or a Harriet Tubman, now which one you
Ooh.
Try the four.
That's Sojourner. Okay, remember, Harriet was Underground Railroad.
That's right.
Sojourner was a woman, among millions of other things. But as we're going to learn here tonight, her story is not taught.
That's
so we
right.
don't know all those things.
And tell them about her friend.
Which one? Elizabeth Keckley
Yeah.
was the dressmaker and confidant to Mary Todd Lincoln. And so, you know, the connections, the commonalities, we don't know. Because it is better when you leave people ignorant and in the dark. And if we do not go out to seek it for ourselves, ain't nobody gonna bring it to us. Okay. So if you don't do anything else, and you got a lot to do to that, know the difference between Harriet and Sojourner. Harriet was about, this is about Harriet. Sojourner was 6 feet tall. Okay. And was once challenged that she couldn't possibly be a woman. So as she was speaking, she ripped open the bodice of her dress. Okay?
All right, we'll move on before that.
All right, well, I'm gonna talk while I'm getting set up over here. I am a flute player, and a composer and arranger, but I also play with traditionally called guitar effects pedals, but they're with the flute, so it's a little bit of a different twist on things. There's only one speaker, so it'll have to do for today. Now, the piece I'd like to play for you is a piece by Claude Debussy. I know he's a man. Interestingly, almost all of the Western classical music was written by men. But this is my arrangement of it. And the reason I'd like to play this piece, and this is a little bit personal, but my grandmother, my mom's mom, was a musician. She was a pianist. She did not have the chance to go to college to pursue her music education. She was married to a Baptist minister, and she played piano at the church. And the only non-church piece that she would play is this piece, Claire de Lune, and it was her signature. Unfortunately, she passed before I could really get to know her. But then my mom came along, also became a pianist. She started college as a piano major, but then got married her freshman year, and her husband, not my dad, but her husband asked her to drop out of college, which she did.
Wow.
Claire de Lune was also her signature piece as well. When I started learning the flute, I was grief-stricken that I couldn't carry on this tradition because this is a piano piece, not a flute piece. And it doesn't really sound right unless you can hear the harmonies of the piece. So this was a huge personal coming together of my mother's mother and all the generations before me of the music traditions of my ancestors. So I'm just going to play just the opening part of Claire de Lune because it's a rather long piece. So hopefully with the effects pedals it has the effect of the piano, so I can play more than one note at a time.
Can I hold your music?
Hopefully I won't need to look at that. It's a piece that unfortunately you will know if I mess up
I really do.
right away.
That's one of my favorite songs too. When I used to play clarinet, I played out of clarinet. All right, we're gonna just go over a couple of questions. Let the ladies explain their take on the topics, and then we're gonna open it up. We go pretty good, pretty much on time. I don't know what I thought I was doing. I knew I had cool with it. Right, I set up the table for 4 hours. I want to stand here and preach to, so I'm gonna do one of these, but not have my back to. Let's start with personal. When I say warrior, what gender first comes to mind? Before I go to the audience.
Oh, you go to them.
Yeah, well, okay, wait. That's right. No, that's we're gonna do this a little differently. How many say a man? Okay, I thought so. Okay, so that means that there's no such thing as a woman warrior? Now this is for the panel to answer. So please, just pipe down for me. You don't get your chance. You'll have your chance. Ladies, you can start. Well, okay, you can start with you.
So how many people saw Black Panther?
3 times.
And so does everybody know who Okoye was? That is now my vision when you talk about warrior. It is she. And I've watched some clips outside of the movie and interviews with her about bringing that character to life and all that she embodied as that character. I don't know that she's a physical fighter herself, but I know she's very involved in the film industry, both a writer and a director. So she got some fight without a doubt. But when I saw the women warriors who protected T'Challa and his wonderful reign, I thought, yes. And Queen Nzinga, and many other women, who we don't learn about, were warriors. And so, right about now, when you say warrior to me, I see woman.
Well, I would agree, of course, with a lot of what you just said. I think we hear the word warrior and we think of like a physical fight with someone. And traditionally, yeah, that's something that men have traditionally done, be physical fighters. But exactly, I think there's way more to it than, of course, physical fighting. And sadly, in the music world, speaking as the musician on the panel, when I started grad school for the second time, one of my teachers asked me, well, who is your favorite female composer? And I literally had no idea, which is just sad, because they literally don't teach you any of that history at all, even all the way through grad school, none of it. So that's slowly starting to change, but yet we're having to fight for it, but thanks to people like you, Charles, helping bring her stories to life. So it's a slow process, but hopefully we'll be included in education.
I think, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, it's unfortunate that we as women don't know about women's history, you know, herstory, as Charles would say, that's fitting for the day. But I think that a present-day warrior is Oprah Winfrey. She's got it going on. She's there for everybody, which is the thing that I like about her. She's a Black woman, but she represents all women. And that's what's important in this world, to fight for women's rights for all women. That's what we need. We as women have always been kind of underdogs in terms of how society looks at us, because they want males to lead this world. And we as women have so much to give. You know, we raised men. You know, we made the men into the men that they are. And we should get our respect for that. So Oprah's my gal.
Well, when I first got the questions from Charles, the first question, I did sit and try to think about it. So let's see, who comes to my mind when I think of a warrior? Well, you know, you have to know, I grew up in India, even though I've been in this country 47 years. But my roots are there. And, you know, when I was growing up, when I think about warriors, I think it was both men and women. Even though we were programmed to say it's men. But growing up, Because you know what? The goddesses of India are stronger than the gods. The goddesses are the ones who rain terror on evil. They are the ones who put in place a just world. So I grew up with my, I don't know how much religion I really got from my mother, but I watched her. My grandmothers, and my mother was an incredibly strong woman. So when I think about, and I'll tell you about, I told Charles I was going to talk about the women in India, the warrior women in India who fought the British. So I'll talk about them. So as I was growing up, it was the women, whether in the form of goddesses or in the form of real women fighting colonialism, who made an incredible impression on me.
And just to close this point out about warriors, it was alluded to already that war, I'll give you a prime example. I'm not an Islamic scholar, but jihad is not, it's a struggle, generally an internal spiritual struggle, but it's also associated with the Crusades when the Christians and the Muslims clashed. And jihad, the term, is also still associated with physical war, but it's not only that. And so one of the things that, one of the reasons why I did Women Warriors was I wanted us to talk about that a little bit, and we'll go on and we'll still talk further tonight. But I'm gonna move along and just ask a few more questions. I'm trying to save this time. In what way do you see women shaping the world view these days? Example, women have all, like you said, women, like you all said, women have been around for ages. They shape it whether you like it or not. But recently, everybody knows what happened with the midterm elections, right? In the history, now everybody's not the same age in here, but you old buggers. In our history, have we ever seen so many women elected at one time? No. Okay. So, but anyway, let's get to it. In what way do you feel women are shaping the world? I spoke of one example, but
You want to go the same way or want to reverse?
you want to go reverse?
Sure. I have to make a clarification. I don't think women, just because they're women, have really in any way are superior. It's not about one gender being superior than another. Whether it's because we have had in India, we have had Indira Gandhi, who was the prime minister, and everybody thinks loads about her. But she was really the one who started some of the worst wars in India. She was the one who totally derailed democracy in India. So just because somebody is a woman doesn't mean that she's going to be a savior. So it's not about just a woman, but what kind of woman? What kind of woman is one going to be who is going to put the interests of the people first, the interests of the earth first, the interests of peace and justice first? I have tremendous faith in like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think she's one of those women who is going to be quite a person who's going to bring incredible amount of change, because she's already shaking the status quo with her Green New Deal. So I think it's women like her, the women, the first Muslim American woman who is they are saying things but they are shaking things up. Yeah. So it's not just about being women with the right viewpoint, the right perspective. And when they speak, you better listen.
Interesting to bring up her name because she was one of the women that was in the film that Charles just showed. And when I came in earlier, he was showing it to some other people. And I said to him, watch her. She's going to be the next president. I mean, not the next president, but one of these days, she will be the president of the United States. I may not live to see it, but if she continues to stay in Congress, to stay in politics, and to be as vocal and as verbal as she has been. I think she's going to be one of our best female leaders on the planet. She's innately got this sensitivity to hone in on making you think about what's really important. There are a lot of politicians that they just talk, but they don't really get to the core of you to make you think, oh, she's saying something that I feel. And I think that that's what women bring to the world. Women make you feel. And that's important.
I definitely agree with a lot of what both of you said, especially you, Lou. I think that, of course, women aren't just by definition better or worse at all. We all bring our own strengths to the table, and I think that there should be just a balance of forces, a balance of energy, a yin and a yang, to kind of represent the people of Earth. And it seems like there's a lot of masculine energy around that's controlling how things have been for a long time. So just for us as women to have our own say and to balance out the forces, so that we bring our different strengths. We bring, what was the word that you used? Peace, love. Make you feel, exactly. So, as an artist, I don't think art is gender-based. I can't hear a piece and know necessarily it was written by a man or a woman. And I'm not saying that, I should deserve to have recognition because I'm a woman. But, for example, in the history book so far for music, there's composers, and then in the index, there's women composers. And that to me is just really sad that there is this separation, you're a female politician, or you're a female artist, a female writer. And to me, it should just be a musician.
There is one major difference between men and women. And I think it is all important, especially as the world is structured and is run and move forward. We give life. Now, let's not get into the argument that we couldn't give it if there wasn't a sperm. No. Okay, we don't have biology here today. All I'm trying to say is that the women are the bearers of the fruit. Therefore, in many cases, a woman is more prone to think about the life and its extension than a man, perhaps, who doesn't have that same, come from that same place of having given life. That, I think, is a huge difference that women can bring, have brought, and are really going to bring now. These young women in Congress, it's so exciting, it's so wonderful. Somebody's going to be president, and they're going to change the world. But I don't know if you're hearing what I hear. And what I hear is the pushback. Oh my God. Well, she should so. Well, we think that she better so. Shortening Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's name to something that they can use as a quick bite. Finding any way possible to diminish these powerful women. We are women. We are used to men, present company perhaps excluded, diminishing us. We know how to stand. And I believe that we must stand with these women who are in Congress, who are representing us, who we voted for, so that they can go forward. They need our back, because we got more of what they got. So all of us together. To quote Sojourner, and let's read the end, if the first woman God ever put on this earth could turn it upside down, all by herself, all these women together ought to be able to get it right and turn it back up again. And now that they's asking, the men better let them.
That quote is right in that display case. It's not verbatim, but it's very close to what she was saying.
And she said that in 1851. What year is it? Oh, Lord.
Have you got it there?
I don't get it. It's a slow process.
All right, let me go ahead, because time is ticking. I'm going to ask one more. Well, you know what? I don't think each of you really describe yourselves. What do you think? How would you describe yourself other than, you know, what we see before us? If someone said, well, who are you? What might you say to describe who you are? Well, you go say.
Somebody threw this exercise at me many, many years ago, and it throws you off. Because you used to say, well, I'm Lorraine. I'm a woman. We can see that, so what else is there? I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an artist, I'm a writer.
Let me rephrase it for a minute.
Yeah.
What brought you, what do you think, how did you get to be what we know you to be professionally?
Drusilla.
Oh, your mom. Well, tell me a little.
Charles and I grew up in church together in Asbury. And ain't she a woman? Well, she certainly was. The energy from my mother to always push me to a place where I was speaking and standing and where I could be seen and where I was seeing everything else that went on. It's probably my greatest impetus to be where I am and who I am today. So I am a writer, a mother, a grandmother, an activist, a warrior. When my children were in school, I was absolutely a warrior. You want to mess with?
I hear you.
I remember marching to superintendent's office one day, and I must have looked, and he said, okay, Mrs. Thomas, what do you want? I said, I want him out of this school. He said, it's done. Thank you. So because Drusilla gave me that presence of knowing that I could stand and speak and ask for what I wanted, I carried forward. I want to be a mother, someone who's in league with women, a friend, a confidant, so that we can share and stand together and support each other so we can get to where we need to go. We have sons, we have husbands, we have brothers, we have fathers. I don't mean we should leave them out unless they really act ugly. But we can stand together, and I think that's something about me that is really important. I want to be able to draw women together. Done.
I don't like going after you. Okay, so my story of how I got here today.
Yeah, why did you choose?
Why did I choose?
How did you get to choose to be coming to the profession of, number one, being an educator, but you weren't a math educator, you weren't a social music teacher. You already told us a little bit about the musical inspiration from your family, but if you look back, were there any other influences other than, your mom and your grandma?
Yeah, well, I grew up in rural Kentucky, and it was such an idyllic childhood, honestly. I had amazing parents, and it was a lot of playing outside in the forest, we called it. I was a really big tomboy growing up, which was very frowned upon in the 90s, and especially in the South by a very conservative family. One day she'll outgrow this. So I took up the flute at 6th grade or so because my mom and my grandma, it's just in my blood, I guess, to be a musician. But then what do you want to do for college? Well, I almost went into science, but then I thought to myself, would I really be truly happy my whole life to be in a cerebral field, which I love astronomy and physics, but I thought thought it'd be really nice to be like a woman in the sciences. However, at the end of the day, I felt that my heart would be the happiest inside, even if I had no money at all, if I were just making music. So I decided to do that. And with my whole life savings and my inheritance from my father, who sadly passed, I was able somehow to come up to New York City to live the dream, at least as a Kentuckian, to go to New York and be an artist. And that was crazy. But I'm so glad that I did that. And that's how I ended up here in New Jersey. And my dad, when I started college the first time, he said, well, it's great to be a musician, but maybe you should think about education, just in case. What a wise man. He didn't know nothing about music, but he knew a lot about life, and I knew very little. So I came to be an educator because that was the best way for me to actually give back to the community and make a living and to do what I love all at once. So I'm so honored to be able to teach these young people in Brick right now about music. That's brought so much joy to my life, and to be able to be that person to them that's like, look at this thing, that this is art, this is life, this can bring you joy, this will help you in so many ways, and to just see it happening for them is more reward than I was ever expecting. So I'm really honored to have started my career as a musician and educator.
You asked that question about how I chose my profession.
Well, yeah, how did you?
I grew up in the Midwest, in Ohio, to be specific. I grew up in 2 sets of projects. I had a brother who succumbed to the street life, who at age 40 got shot and killed. I saw a lot of pain in my community. And so I didn't know it, at the time, but I you hear my voice kind of quivering because this is kind of sensitive to me. Because I never focused on that. I haven't focused on it in a long time about why I am where I am. So I was like the person in my community who took up, who was, I was little, I was always little, but I had a big mouth. And so I was always the one that if people would share, what was going on with them, but they couldn't share it with anybody else. So I was the person who shared what was going on with them with everybody else. And so I think I'm a social worker by profession. I've been many things. I've been a marital therapist. I've been a psychotherapist. I've been an advocate for Vietnamese, Cambodians, and Laotians. I've lived all over the world. I lived in Germany. I used to teach for the University of Maryland. I've done a lot of things with my social work background, but all of it has been related to helping people and to being a spokesperson for, others. That's just been my plight. So, consequently, I married someone who was from the South. He was so different from me because I had never been to the South until I met him. And he came from Virginia. His mother and father only went to the 4th grade, and they put all their 6 children through school. So he added something to my life when I met him. And I was already a good person, but he made me better. He enhanced my sensitivity to a whole different world that I had never known before. So now I'm a wife. I'm a widow now, but I was a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm an activist. And I'm spiritual, but I'm not spiritual in the sense of needing to go to a building to practice what I feel in terms of a higher being. And I like myself.
I was born, India was a British colony. I was born 4 years after India became independent. Both my parents gave their lives in the freedom movement. But so when I was growing up, I believed that, all their sacrifices will really come, hold fruit, that India will become this great country. But as I was growing up, I saw that was not happening. So I ran away and joined the revolution. And fortunately, I survived. And my mother said, you can't stay here. So she got me married and sent me to this country. So, and when I came here, that seed was all raised in my head. That, when we are growing up, we always believed that the world would be different. It would be better, there is no question about it. But it's not. So I became a sociologist. So I said that, so today I look at the world through the lens of a sociologist. Because I'm trying to understand, why isn't the world changing the way I always wanted it to change? And through the lens of, who is a sociologist? Somebody who tries to understand why things are the way they are. Why there is inequality, why there is war, why there is injustice, why there is all this nonsense in a world of plenty, And that's the lens I used as I was raising my children. And now that's the lens I use as I'm raising my grandson. So I think, first and foremost, I'm a sociologist. Because I have to understand the world before I can act on it.
Notice how well I paired them up. To performing artists, to sociologists. I didn't even know it. I knew what a couple were, but I didn't know how this was going to happen. But anyway.
I guess I should say that I taught at Georgian Court for 30 years.
Okay.
Georgian Court in Lake. So, and I just retired 2 years ago. Because I have to take care of my grandson. Because I believe that if you raise strong children, you won't have to worry about healing broken men. You know who said this? Frederick Douglass.
I wanted to add something to my story. I didn't tell you what I did. In addition to what I did for the last 25 years and what I retired from. I was an educational social worker in a high school for the last 25 years, and I retired in 2010. I was at a high school, this is very interesting because the first year that I went into school social work, I worked in Long Branch. I worked with a diverse population, and it was wonderful. The last 25 years, I did not work with a diverse population. I worked with what I would call the haves. So the haves, working with that population for the last 25 years was such a different. As I told you, I came from poverty more or less. I didn't know I was poor. I was happy as I don't know what, But everybody else, if you look from the outside, we lived in two different sets of projects, but where I went into the field of social work as a way to give back, and then I ended up working with the haves. Interestingly enough, you think that when you work with the haves, that they don't have problems. So the problems, there are problems that the have-nots have, and there are problems that the haves have as well, but they're problems nonetheless. And so I was still able to give because those kids that I worked with for the last 25 years needed so much in terms of sensitivity, being sensitive to what is really important in life. And Norman and Hazel and I worked in the same school together, and we gave them that different perspective.
That's right.
We gave them a different perspective.
Okay, I'd like to just quickly go over these vocabulary words so as they don't go to waste. We'll move a little quickly. Usually I ask people if they know. I'm just going to tell you because if anyone has a comment or question, it's already 7 o'clock. I'm going to run it until about 10 after 7, so then we out here. All right, the first one, cacique. The answer for that is Taino word for chief, I. Idia and Amina, number 2. Anyone know? I gotta ask one. Anyone know the answer to that one? Number 2, Idia and Amina. You got an idea if you had been paying attention to the slide. All right, queens of neighboring countries. Idia was the queen mother of Benin. At that time, probably the homie. Amina was a queen out of the neighboring country of Nigeria. It was referred to as Zaria, which is a section of Nigeria, or at least it was in her time. The third one, Anushka and Sona. Well, if you look over there and if you pay attention, no, let me stop. I won't beat you up. The answer to Anushka and Sona is J. Sitar and kora players that come from a grand tradition of players of those instruments. When I say that,
F.
oh, F, I'm sorry, what did I say? G, C, yeah, right. Okay, thank you for keeping, see, that's why I need ladies, man. Because I can't get through this without no women's. No, but anyway, but you're right, I can't read my own writing. We'll tell you about the grand tradition later. Where are we now? Yuri and Angela, number 5.
4.
Miss 4. Miss 4. All right. Well, listen, since I'm already. All right. We'll go back to 4. Sona and Angelique. G. West African musicians. Sona plays the kora, and Angelique is a singer. Right. Number 5. Yuri and Angela. Human rights activist, E. 6, Mary G. Ross and Mary Jackson.
J.
J, right. The first indigenous American, some of you might say Indian, might say Native American, and the first Afro-American, both of them women, of course, that worked as engineers in the 50s and 60s. Women can't count. You know these guys are crazy because they say women can't count, yet in most households, who's the one that at times balances the books and keeps old drunk husbands and spend it all up on them? Never mind. You know what I mean? All right, so women can count now, and to the tune of being an engineer even. All right, let's go, where are we now? 7, Haiti and Borinquen. D, Taino names for Haiti and Puerto Rico. 8, Doctors Joy DeGroux and Francis Cress Wells. B, exactly right. Doctors of Clinical Psychology and Psychiatry, whose work focuses mainly on social conditions of Blacks or Afro-Americans. Number 9, Angela and Asada. Number 9 is A, female Afro-American revolutionaries. Angela, as we know, both of them were former Panthers and come from pretty much the same time period, the latter 60s into the 70s. Angela had a brush with the law, and of course, Trump and many wanted Obama. Asada also had at least one brush with the law, which brought her to reside in Cuba, where she is today, as I've heard. I did not see her in my trips, but that's what they said. Number 10, the last one, Gloria and Ava. C, Afro-Cuban and Afro-American filmmakers. We don't have to go back too far back, actually, to get who was the woman who wrote, I don't know if she produced, but she wrote and directed Daughters of the Dust, which was a movie about,
In the 70s.
right, and then it came out in the 90s, actually. Well, that's 20 years ago. But that was a big thing then.
Yeah, it was.
Not only because she was a black woman, like Ava, okay, but primarily the subject, the whole movie had to do with the grand matriarch and her daughters and granddaughters and what went on at the end of slavery. Give you a little slice of life as to...
Isn't it about Nova Scotia?
No, they were in the Sea Islands off Georgia and the Carolinas. As a matter of fact, you're right. They're called the Gullah, and affectionately, that's the real name. But affectionately in the black community, we call them Yeats. You know, right? Yeats. You know, but it's the Gullah is a more formal and respectful word for those people. And so that's that. Now. Like I said, the clock is, I'd love to do this a little longer, but any questions, comments, for the ladies, for the topic, go ahead.
I just want you got your name. Musician.
Yeah, Melissa.
Melissa, I just want to share with you, there is a female composer that I had the privilege of working with, and she's an extraordinary composer. And her name is, she's the founder of Sweet Honey in the Rock. Her name is Bernice Reagan. She wrote what's the music to an opera?
The libretto.
Libretto, thank you. And we performed it. But I'm telling you, an extraordinary composer. And she writes basically from all the different aspects of being black music, from Gullah music to field songs, the whole gamut. She's an amazing composer, so I wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to learn all that after school.
Right.
So I've caught up since.
But look her up if you've not heard of Bernice Reagan. She and her daughter Toshi is doing great music as well. And amazing that there's aspects of black history music that most of us are not privy to. We're not aware that there's call songs and field songs and spirituals and it just goes gospel and it just goes on and on and on. Jazz and house music and R&B, so it's, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Daughters of the Dust is by Julie Dash.
Yes.
In relation to the topic today, I think when we talk about women as warriors, we need to look at how each individual stands culturally in America. Because the European is a paternalistic society. I come from deep South Mississippi with some African Choctaw Cherokee with a touch of some European in it. And the social upbringing that people have, how you're indoctrinated, depends on what's going on. I was always taught you can do what you want to do, you can say what you want to say, you will take over and do what you want to do. It wasn't a question. I was taught automotive repair. My father thought I could get out there like the boys do and do it because if you drive in a car, you gotta fix your stuff. You learn how to fix a hammer. My brothers learned how to change baby diapers. That's just what you do. We were involved in civil rights. My family going way back decades in the realms of Mississippi with Medgar Evers. And it wasn't a girl thing or a man's job or this is what women do. You just do what you do. So we have to think about that because one thing that annoys me is a little frail, oh, I can't do it kind of girl makes you want to slap.
One last comment, and we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Something I wanted to ask about, and maybe next year or maybe in a couple months or something. I'm particularly interested in. I know there's a film coming out soon. So the movie Black Panther, the women were the warriors in the film, and from what I understand, that it's based upon real women who existed in that. So you have that up there, right?
Well, no, I don't have that, but my reference to this woman here, oh man, Cecile Fatima. She was what many would call a voodoo priestess, but she was a healer. She was into voodoo. The second woman that I showed you that was of Haiti or Haiti, well at that time it was Hispaniola, going back and forth between Haiti and Hispaniola. There was Toya, Asbury Toya, if I'm not mistaken. She was the one who showed Dessalines how to fight how to do hand-to-hand combat, as well as taught them some strategies. As you know, Dessalines was one of a series of generals, Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Pétion, and Christophe. Boukman is not a general. We'll get to Boukman. Matter of fact, since you brought him up, Boukman, along with Cecile Fatima, okay, the two of them are the ones that created this firestorm in the Africans that were captive in Haiti at the time. They had been rebelling long before Boukman and Cecile, but those two together really got the ball rolling, okay? But women throughout time are healers, are educators. What Malcolm said. You teach a man, you teach an individual. You teach a woman, you teach a nation, or something like that. Well, I guess so. Now, they can't have a nation, but they are the bringers of life, aren't they? They create females over females and males. All right? So, and in doing so, once that seed takes hold, that child, whichever they're going to be, is starting to learn. Learn not only language, but feelings. From the hormones, from the vitamins, from the nutrients, from the mother's particular emotional feelings. Okay? And that's your first introduction. And ain't no certification, ain't no school other than mama's mama. She taught her, but other than that, there's no school, there's no certificate. And many times there's no real respect either. You say, well, you know, that's what they supposed to do. No, they have to work a lot more than that. But anyway, I'm not gonna start talking. I have to stop.
Thank you.
It's 7:15. Thank these ladies for coming out. Thank you for coming out again.